At about 2:30, John Hendricks from Boot Crew Media. He's going to hop on and we're going to get his take as he's been out there at practice for the New Orleans Saints. Want to start real quick. Tell you that LSU actually gained a commitment this morning. Pretty big get for the Tigers. Kai Bates, a 4-star cornerback out of the state of Florida. His offer list is quite impressive. He chose LSU over his other finalists, which includes Alabama, Florida State, and Tennessee. So all top 15 programs there. He's about 6'2", 180 pounds. He's the number 20th commitment for head coach Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers in that 2024 recruiting class. Now, still no 5 stars in that recruiting class. However, I'm not super concerned. They have a lot of quality 4-star guys and some highly rated 3 as well. At LSU, it actually bumps them up to the number 12 class nationally per 24/7 Sports so far for the 2024 class. Bates said that he came here because he was excited about the culture of the program, the stability around it. He really mentioned Matt House, Brian Kelly, Robert Steeples. He was a big factor in getting Kai Bates. He was actually the lead recruiter for this young man, and he continues to do great on the recruiting trail. He was one of the guys when Kelly was brought in, one of his first hires, and since he's been on the staff, he's really shown that he knows how to recruit and pull in those high school kids. But what I really want to do and start the show, Wilson Alexander yesterday with NOLA.com, he put out a list of 5 players with potential breakout seasons for LSU. Quite a good list. However, I want to kind of break it down, give you my thoughts on who my 5 could maybe be. He starts the list off with Mason Smith. I think this is a pretty obvious one. I can't wait to see what him and Mekhi Wingo do in that interior of the defensive line. There's also a lot of depth at this position as well. I mean, you got a Jacoby and Guillory. I just mentioned Mekhi Wingo. You got some young guys coming in, but think about all the transfers coming in. Jordan Jefferson, Paris Shand, Jalen Lee, who's from right here in the state of Louisiana, coming over from the Florida Gators. That's a spot that I'm really looking forward to watching. So much talent and depth right there in the interior of your defense. I agree with this Mason Smith one. Look, he's a guy that came in, huge 5-star, top 5 player nationally when he came in 2 years ago. Started to gain steam a little bit late in his freshman year, and then last year we all saw it. First drive of the game against Florida State, he tears that knee. He misses the entire year. Now people are kind of sleeping on him a little bit. I mean, I was a little surprised to see him on the first-team All-SEC list, not because I don't think he should be there, but because up until that point, we really haven't heard a lot about him, at least as far as the national media goes. I mean, we here in Baton Rouge, we know all about Mason Smith, the talent he is, and the potential around him. I couldn't agree more, though. I am certainly looking forward to see what he does here in 2023 in Baton Rouge. He moves on and stays with the defensive line, though, with Savion Jones. I talked about this yesterday as far as edge being one of my question marks for this LSU defense heading into 2023. He's going to be that hand in the dirt defensive end, opposite of that edge or that jack linebacker, if you want to call it. I think he's the lead here. I mean, I know we have Quincy Wiggins. He was a highly touted guy last year. Played a little bit as a freshman. Still really raw when he got to LSU, though. He's working his way in, and he could very well factor in here. But Savion Jones, he looked good last year. I was surprised to see this stat. Did you know he actually finished 3rd on the team last year with 4.5 sacks? I did not realize that because, again, he was kind of a role player. That really shows the impact he had when he stepped foot on the field. He definitely made the most of his opportunity. Again, I think he's the leader at this group, and this is a group that has a lot of depth as well. Kind of shifting towards the offensive side of the ball. As far as the receiver position go, Wilson Alexander wrote that Brian Thomas was going to kind of be his breakout guy on the offensive side of the ball. Big 6'4" wide receiver from Walker High School. Shout out my alma mater. Look, we've seen the big playability from Brian Thomas. They've thrown some jump balls up to him in the end zone. Had a really nice one halfway through the season last year. Jaden Daniels put it on the money right over defender. Thomas, he just out-jumped him. Look, from a guy that's from Walker, Louisiana, this guy, great basketball player. Walker won the state championship about 4 or 5 years ago. He was the MVP on that state championship basketball team. Athleticism off the charts, and he's also been pretty consistent. Now, he hasn't gotten a ton of targets, but look what he did as a freshman. 28 receptions, 359 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, that's as a freshman. Last year, he didn't have a huge jump, but he was better across the board. 31 receptions, 361 yards, and then 5 touchdowns last season as a sophomore. We always see that big third-year jump from a lot of guys, that junior year, their money year, if you want to call it. However, is he the right choice here? Look, I love Brian Thomas, fellow Walker, Louisiana guy like myself, but I'm not sure if he's my breakout wide receiver. I'm actually going to lean Kyren Lacy here. We saw Lacy get on the field a lot last year. He was another ULL transfer. I talked about Mekhi Garner a couple days ago. He comes in from ULL, really kind of burst onto the scene, makes an impact right away. His problem last year, he had quite a few drops. That was his issue. He didn't have the most sure hands in the world, but word out of spring practice was that, he was working on that. He looked very sure-handed. One of the most athletic guys in that entire receiver room. If you remember the play that we all saw from that spring game, the ball was thrown right down the middle. I believe Garrett Nussmeier actually threw this pass, but I could be wrong. It could have been Jaden Daniels. But anyways, he throws it across the middle. He jumps up, snags it out of the air with one hand right on the eye of the Tiger, and then outran everybody. It wound up being like a 65, 75-yard touchdown in that spring game. To me, the athleticism here is off the charts. He's also got the size. He's about 6'3", 215 range. Thomas is big as well. I mentioned he was 6'4", but he doesn't quite have the body. And look, they have a lot of first-year players coming into this position as well. Shelton Sampson from right here at Catholic High in Baton Rouge. Matt Moscona would be screaming Catholic High right now. I'm not going to do that to you, though. We also got Jalen Brown, who, if he wouldn't have got hurt in the spring and had to sit out a lot of spring practice, I think we'd be talking about him a lot more. He's one of my favorite players from this entire recruiting class. Might be the fastest guy in that receiver room. That's saying a lot. You got Aaron Anderson and Chris Hilton in that room. I'll get to them in a minute, but Jalen Brown coming in as a true freshman. I think he's going to play a lot. I think that's kind of my surprise freshman on the offensive side of the ball, regardless of position. Now, I just mentioned Aaron Anderson coming in from Alabama. Didn't play a ton at Alabama, but as soon as he came in, what did we hear from Brian Kelly in the spring? Hey, there's going to be a role for Aaron Anderson on this team. He's going to have a role. He's going to make an impact. We really believe that, punt returner, kickoff returner, that's probably Aaron Anderson's spot to lose. He's got that speed, that athleticism, but he could make some noise in that receiver room as well. We talk about the big three all the time. We know about Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Kyren Lacy, who we just talked about, but who's going to kind of step up after those three veteran guys? I don't see why it couldn't be a Jalen Brown or an Aaron Anderson, but I love that room. The last two guys he mentioned, he went back to the defensive side of the ball, and especially D-line. When I look at this list, it's hard to argue with any of these guys, but it really shows you how deep this LSU defensive line really is. I mean, we got Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo, 2 first-team All-SEC preseason selections. He went Jacoby and Guillory. And I really like this pick. He's a guy that kind of gets lost in the shuffle every now and then, a big run stuffer, a space filler, if you will. I mean, 6'3", 6'4", 330 plus. Came in the same recruiting class as a Jaquelin Roy. Now, Roy's gone on to bigger and better things. He certainly had a good career, but Guillory, no slouch either. I mean, he's going to get in there. He's going to be that run stuffer, like I mentioned. Been on the team for a while. Could make a significant impact on the inside of that defensive line. He also gives you a little bit different look than a Smith and a Wingo. I don't think Smith or Wingo is going to line up at that nose. But, I mean, if you need to go 4-man down in the ground with their hand in the dirt, you could put in a guy like a Jacoby and Guillory to be that nose tackle. Also, what will the D-line rotation look like? We've talked about Smith. We've talked about Wingo, Savion Jones. I just mentioned all the transfers. Parashand, Jordan Jefferson, not the quarterback, the transfer D-lineman from West Virginia. You got Jalen Lee coming in from Florida. This is probably the deepest position on your team, and I don't really think it's close. And that says a lot about what Brian Kelly's valuing. I thought LSU was lacking a little bit. Not necessarily their starters. Wingo and Roy did a great job, but there was not a ton of depth. We talked about Mekhi Wingo, discussed it at SEC Media Days. He played almost every snap on the defensive side of the ball last year because you didn't have a ton of depth on that defensive line behind him. You got Guillory, you got other guys, all the transfers I just mentioned. You got some freshmen coming in as well. I'm really, really excited about this defensive line. And the last guy he mentions is Sage Ryan. This is Sage Ryan's third year on the team. He was highly recruited coming out of high school. Another guy, a 5-star. I'm sure most LSU fans hope this is the case. I'm losing my patience with him a little bit. His issue is not that, he's been buried on the depth chart. He's had a lot of injuries. He's just been very inconsistent, and I'd go as far as to say a liability at times. Again, he came in with a lot of hype, but for whatever reason, he has not put it together. He was in that nickel spot last year, but you kind of changed that up a little bit. You saw Greg Brooks play nickel. Jay Ward kind of finished off the season at that nickel spot. That's a spot that's up for grabs. I mean, again, he played it a lot last year, but didn't really play it all that well. Will he get a start at nickel? He also came into LSU as a safety. They need safety help as well. However, I think Greg Brooks and Major Burns pretty much have a lock on those two starting spots. I think nickel's probably the best spot for him to get on the field. But again, a lot of talent coming in. We talked about all the cornerbacks yesterday. Zy Alexander, Denver Harris, Deuce Chestnut, a guy that could lock it down on the outside on the perimeter as that shutdown corner, or he can kick down, play inside at that nickel spot. Look, I sure hope Sage Ryan breaks out, but I don't think that's any guarantee. There is a lot of depth right now at that nickel spot. There's a lot of bodies only competing for one starting spot. We'll see what he can do. I know he was highly rated out of high school, but right now I am not very high on Sage Ryan and his potential in 2023. Other than that, though, I love the list. Mason Smith, Jacoby and Guillory, Brian Thomas Jr., who I could see that happening. However, that receiver room is so deep, probably the deepest on the offensive side of the ball. It could really be anybody. My vote, I'm throwing my hat in the ring for a Kyron Lacey. And, of course, Savion Jones, the last one on his list of 5 players. All right, I want to kind of open the show with a fun segment right there. Want to take a timeout. We're going to stick with college football, but instead of LSU, we're going to kind of broaden our horizons. We're going to call college football playoff predictions, what each conference is bringing to the table and which teams from those conferences actually have a shot to be in that Final Four at the end of the season. We'll talk about that right after this break here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. Corey Barr is a champion of Louisiana. He's a chef. He's a restaurateur. He's gained national acclaim on the Food Network, beating Bobby Flay and next Food Network star. But home is important to him. That's why he operates 3 businesses in Monroe, where he is from, and always takes pride in being a Louisianian. And that's why he's a champion of Louisiana. LWCC wants to tell as many of these stories as they can. They're giving us a platform to do it, but they need your help. So go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate a champion of Louisiana. It could be a person like Chef Corey Barr, could be a nonprofit, could be a business. They're doing great philanthropic work. We want to tell their story. That's why we love telling you about Chef Corey Barr. He is a champion of Louisiana, and LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,500 off MSRP on all new 23 Ram 1500 Laramie trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. LSU pitcher Javen Coleman joins us, and Matty Hudak has an update from Saints Camp. It's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Close. It's not Hunt Palmer. It's the Hunt Palmer Show. Taylor Sharp filling in for a vacationing Mr. Hunt Palmer. I'm with you today and tomorrow. Hunt had a nice long week off. He will be back on Monday morning. Teased it a little bit going into the break. Want to talk college football playoff projections here. Want to kind of break it down conference by conference. What are some realistic teams or any teams in the conference even good enough to make it there? I'm looking at you, Big 12. So look, we're going to start with right here. We're going to go with the SEC. I think there's 3 legitimate playoff contenders in this conference. You got Georgia and LSU, obviously, and I'm going to throw Alabama in there as well. Again, I think these are the only realistic teams in the SEC that could make it out of here and go to the playoff. And I'm still shaky on Alabama. I don't know what they're going to do with their quarterback situation. Jalen Milroe, when he filled in last year for Bryce Young, he was pretty bad. I mean, he had some athletic ability, but 4 turnovers in that game against Texas A&M, almost lost the ball game because of it. Now, he's not projected to be their starter. You got Ty Simpson. He's shaky as well. Then right after spring, you bring in Tyler Buckner, the Notre Dame transfer, which on the surface, you would say, okay, that makes sense. He was a starter for Notre Dame last year. Tommy Rees is coming in to be the offensive coordinator. He was Notre Dame's offensive coordinator last year. That's a match made in heaven, right? Not really. Saban already came out and said he loved the terminology that Bill O'Brien used. He's going to use a lot of that same terminology here in 2023. So Tyler Buckner has no advantage. He's still got to go through a big learning curve to get up to speed in time for the first game. Now, I still think he's going to start. The only issue I have is Tommy Rees. I think he left a lot to be desired as far as an offensive coordinator win at Notre Dame, and Tyler Buckner wasn't that great at Notre Dame either. Both of them are taking a step up in competition to the SEC. I'm not sure about Alabama. The only reason I even have them on this list is I'm never going to be the guy that's going to count out Nick Saban, but I like Georgia, LSU, and possibly Alabama from the SEC. Moving right along to the Big Ten, there's 2 for sure. You got Michigan and Ohio State. But what about Penn State? I personally only think it's a 2-man battle. There's a lot of people high on Penn State, and rightfully so. I mean, they got Drew Aller coming in at quarterback this year. He's taken over for Sean Clifford, who I'm pretty sure was their starter for about 8 seasons now. But my big issue with Penn State, because again, they got the talent at quarterback. You know they're going to have a good defense. I have no confidence in James Franklin. I think Franklin has underperformed so far at Penn State. I mean, we saw what he did, the heights that he brought Vanderbilt to and how hard that was. And he was such a sought-after coach. USC went after him a little bit right after he got to Penn State. But, he's kind of hovered around 8-4, 9-3 every year, and that's fine. But, when are you going to break through? Maybe this is his year. Maybe he pulls a Jim Harbaugh. For a while, people were down on Jim Harbaugh. There was rumors he was going to get fired, and then he was going to take an NFL job to prevent from getting fired. He makes the college football playoff. He's favored to make the college football playoff again. But back to Michigan and Ohio State. I think these are the two right here. But I'm going to lean Michigan just because I don't know what Ohio State's going to do at quarterback. You got Devin Brown. You got Kyle McCord. A lot of people thought that Kyle McCord was going to run away with this quarterback battle. That has not happened yet. They did not name a starter after spring practice. And coming into fall camp just yesterday, Ryan Day said, this quarterback battle is still very much a two-person race. It's a coin flip at this point for me. I do think Kyle McCord wins that job, but I don't think he runs away with it by any means. How's he going to perform? And again, is Ryan Day going to take that next step as a coach? A lot like James Franklin. Now, we've seen Ryan Day make the playoff, but it hasn't really gone well for him in the college football playoff. I think he's a good coach, but I like Michigan coming out of the Big Ten. I like Michigan because they returned J.J. McCarthy, who, for my money, is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I really like what I saw from him last year. Look, you had a guy in Cade McNamara 2 years ago that was the starter. And what did we see? McCarthy would come off the bench and blowouts. He would really wow everybody. He would light up the scoreboard. That caused Cade McNamara to get out of here. He's like, I'm leaving. He's going to be the starting quarterback at Iowa this year. So you got J.J. McCarthy, his second full season as a starter, third year in the program. You return Blake Corum. That defense is going to be solid. Jim Harbaugh doesn't have to keep looking over his shoulder at an athletic director. He has that job stability now. I think things are rolling really well for Michigan. As far as the ACC goes, there's really two teams for me. It is Clemson and it is Florida State. A lot of people want to throw North Carolina in there for Drake May, and Drake May is certainly talented. Might be the best quarterback in college football. The rest of the team is not talented enough. They've lost a lot of talent 2 years in a row. Haven't been great in recruiting. They've gotten some talent from the transfer portal, but nothing I think that can help them compete with a Florida State and a Clemson whose rosters really look good from top to bottom. Let's dive into Florida State. You here in Baton Rouge, you know the importance of this game because this is LSU's first opponent of the 2023 season. Florida State has a really good roster from top to bottom. We saw the Seminoles coming to New Orleans and beat LSU last year. Their roster might even be better this year. Now, granted, I think LSU's a lot better than last year as well, but you return Jordan Travis. You got your receivers back. Your defense is still going to be really solid. Mike Norvell, I think, is a really good coach. But I'm not so sure they make it out of the ACC. Now, they very well could. It's a coin flip for me, but people started sleeping on Clemson. And I understand they haven't made the college football playoff, but they've still been a good program. Are they college football playoff every year, 2 national championships in 3 years? No. But who's to say they can't get back to that? We've seen Dabo. We know he can win the big games. He was breaking in a new quarterback last year. DJ Uiagalelei did not work out. He's at Oregon State now. They brought in Cade Klubnik. He struggled a little bit as a freshman, but to tell you the truth, most true freshman quarterbacks struggle. I like Klubnik. I think he's a talented guy. He's got great pocket awareness. He can make all the throws. He delivers it downfield, throws a very catchable ball. I think he's going to make a big jump in his second year. And if he can make that big jump, Clemson is a team to watch. As far as the Big 12, who can make it out of that conference? Well, I got a big fat question mark here. Can anybody make it out of here? Texas is the favorite to win, but if you listen to the morning show, T-Bob Hebert, he is not a big Steve Sarkisian fan, and rightfully so. I was always kind of a Sark guy, but the more I start looking at his coaching career, the guy's never won 10 games at anywhere he's been. Why should I have confidence in him that that's all of a sudden going to happen this year? They have to play Alabama. That's going to be a tough game. Now, I will give him this. The Big 12 is not going to be very good this year. So they may very well make it out of there, but they're going to have to basically run the table if they lose to Alabama, which I think they probably will. But how about TCU? I know what you're thinking. Whoa, TCU lost Kendre Miller. They lost Max Duggan. They lost Quentin Johnston. They definitely did. Sonny Dykes is a very good coach. They return a lot of really good players. Don't forget that Chandler Morris at quarterback, he actually started the season and beat out Max Duggan in fall camp. He got hurt. Duggan was actually thrown back into the starting lineup, so Chandler Morris beat him out. I expect that he will have a really good season. I mean, he's going up against the Big 12 defenses, which is probably equivalent to some of the Louisiana high schools out here. I'm not sure about the Big 12, though. As far as the Pac-12 go, I think there's three. You got USC, Utah, and Oregon. Save this conference for last because I kind of feel like it could cannibalize itself a little bit. Is there one dominant team? I mean, a lot of people want to say USC, but I mean, they were like 126th in total defense last year. Are they really going to improve that much? Yeah, they brought in Bear Alexander, but I mean, that's fine. It's one guy. Lincoln Riley still has Alex Grinch as his defensive coordinator. He's pretty much loyal to a fault to Alex Grinch at this point because he wasn't good at Oklahoma. That cost them a lot of college football playoff wins because they had the talent offensively. I mean, yeah, people are saying, well, they can't be worse than they were on defense last year. Probably not. They were 126. How much better can they be? Because if you think about it, jumping from 126 to 85, that's a big jump. But is that good enough to compete for a playoff spot? I don't think so. Utah, you got Kyle Whittingham. All he does is win. Cam Rising comes back. That's probably my favorite to actually win the Pac-12. But are they going to come out of there completely unscathed with, at minimum, one loss? How about Oregon? You got Bo Nix, but, I mean, what do you have around him? Look at the quarterbacks in this conference, though. I mentioned Caleb Williams. I mentioned a Cam Rising, a Bo Nix. Arizona's going to be better with Dillingham at offensive coordinator. Then you got Michael Penix Jr. at Washington. This is a very tough conference. I don't know if any team gets out of this conference with a good enough record to ultimately make the college football playoff. So all that to say this. Okay, well, if nobody from the Big 12 makes it, nobody from the Pac-12 makes it, who makes it? And if there's two teams from the same conference, who are they? I'll go ahead and give you my top four. I'm going Michigan. I've never been a big Michigan fan, but after last season, I got a little bit of more confidence in Jim Harbaugh. I kind of slept on him for a long time, but I mean, he's proven that he can get over that Ohio State hump. I think they got more talent on that roster top to bottom. They got more stability at the quarterback position. I think they come out of the Big Ten. I'm taking Clemson out of the ACC. Outside of Florida State, what does Clemson have? Clemson could lose to Florida State head-to-head. Florida State dropped 2 or 3 games. Remember, they got an LSU out of conference. Clemson could still make it in as a one-loss ACC champion. So there's 2 teams. I'm actually taking 2 out of the SEC, and I know people are going to hate to hear this. I'm going Georgia and LSU. Let's say LSU loses 1 game in the regular season. I kind of think Georgia's going to go undefeated just because their schedule's so easy. The East is so weak. Even with Carson Beck at quarterback, who is more talented than most people think, I think they got a pretty easy path. So let's say Georgia goes undefeated. LSU has 1 loss. LSU takes them down head-to-head in the SEC championship. They both got 1 loss. They're both going. And then you got Michigan and Clemson. I could be completely off on this one, but look, I'm going to take a shot here in preseason. I'm going Georgia, LSU, Michigan, and Clemson as my 4 teams to make the college football playoff. Speaking of college football, we're going to continue to do that here in the whole first hour. Next segment, we're going to shift back towards LSU a little bit. We're going to take a break, but on the other side of this break, Scott Rabalais from The Advocate is going to join me. He's going to give me his thoughts on the SEC media poll that came out in preseason. LSU picked to finish second behind Alabama. What are his thoughts on that? Then we're going to preview fall camp as fall camp's coming up rather quickly. So stay tuned. All that coming up right after this here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathandClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team have been in this business for 30 years. The consultation's free. It doesn't cost anything to have David Duvall and his team come in and just kind of discuss what they could do with you on your bathroom or in your closet. They can do a full-scale renovation of your bathroom. They are licensed contractors, and he's the only call you would have to make. You don't have to get 4 subs involved, calling all. No, David Duvall handles all that. 1 call to One Bath and Closets. On the closet side, same deal. They can do a full-scale renovation. Maybe it's just using your space more effectively. It's like that tub to shower conversion in the bathroom. You can take that tub out, put in a gorgeous glass walk-in shower, changes the look and the functionality of your bathroom. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. You can see their great work. They've got great pictures of it there. You can request a consultation. You can look at their reviews. It's all right there on the website. It's OneBathAndClosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Water.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Bayou Ford has $8,000 off MSRP, plus 1.9% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks, along with Bayou Ford's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my...
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. LSU pitcher Javen Coleman joins us, and Maddie Hudak has an update from Saints Camp. It's AFR 3 to 6, 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome back into the Hunt Palmer Show here on this Thursday afternoon. Taylor Sharp filling in for Mr. Hunt Palmer. I'm with you today and tomorrow. He will be back on Monday. Right now, I want to continue our LSU football talk. I want to bring in right now Scott Rabalais from The Athletic. Scott, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm with The Advocate still, but that's okay.
So Scott, look, I want to dive into these SEC media polls. They kind of put out their, projected order of finish for both the East and West. LSU, a lot of people thought they were going to be the favorite to come out of the West. They were not, though. Alabama actually picked to finish first. What are your thoughts on that, and do you agree with it?
It's understandable. Obviously Alabama's a default pick that you can make year after year, and Georgia's been that in the East for the last few years as well. And LSU has to go there, right? They have to play there in November. And now LSU's had some success there. They almost won there 2 years ago. They did win there in 2019. They've had some chances, and done well there. In fact, they've beaten Alabama there maybe more in the last decade or so than in Tiger Stadium. But sure, it's they're a very talented roster. They recruited well again. I picked LSU to win because yes, they do have to go there, but I could see a scenario where maybe that's LSU's only conference loss, and Alabama stubs its toe a couple of times, and it's basically is based in large part on the quarterback situation. Now, LSU has one of the best quarterback situations in the country with Jaden Daniels returning and Garrett Nussmeier as backup. Alabama, even Nick Saban admitted at media days last week, they don't know who their starting quarterback is going to be. Yeah, they brought in the transfer from Notre Dame. They got Milroe returning in Alabama. Yeah, they've got these guys, and they've got good credentials. But you can't imagine Alabama not taking a step back at quarterback from Bryce Young, can you? I mean, the guy was the number one overall draft pick. I mean, how could they not? Yeah, take a step back this season. While teams like LSU and Arkansas even are holding firm or moving forward. So, yeah, it's understandable that LSU wouldn't pick, but I think it was very close. If you saw the voting, it was very close in the West. LSU was third choice to win the SEC overall, and I think that's what you're going to see as proved out over the course of the season. And they're going to be right there, and that game in November is going to be very, very meaningful with one team or the other trying to gain control of the West heading down the stretch.
You mentioned Jaden Daniels. He was selected to the SEC first team all-offense along with Malik Neighbors and Will Campbell. Look, what I really want to do is focus on the defense, though. You got Mekhi Wingo, Mason Smith, and Harold Perkins, all first-team all-SEC selections. That's right there in the middle of your defense. You know how important it is to be strong in the trenches. So how good could this LSU defense be in 2023?
Well, Brian Kelly spoke at Rotary Club yesterday. He talked about being strong up the middle, and obviously with Mason Smith returning and Mekhi Wingo having the year, which nobody really expected that he's going to have an All-American season. I mean, you miss Mason Smith, but he filled in very capably. Then Harold Perkins moving from the outside spot into the middle, more into the middle. And now they're going to move him all over because, as we saw late last season, teams started to scheme him and try to take him out or neutralize him, from the equation as much as they could. So they're going to try to make it harder for defense to do that and move him around. But basically, they're announcing that he's more of an inside guy. I think LSU's front seven, with players like that, with 3 preseason All-SEC players and a couple of All-Americans. Harold Perkins is on every preseason All-America team, and Mekhi Wingo has at least be considered. Is really very strong. I mean, and this is what separates the good teams from the elite teams in the SEC. Traditionally, the teams we've seen the last 20 years win national championships, play for national championships. They're really good on the defensive line. They're really good in the front seven. And I think that's where LSU is. Obviously, the question that has to be answered with this secondary, like the team, like last year is the secondary. I called it the United Nations backfield last year because they had brought in players from all over the place because they had to. And they kind of had to do that again. And Brian Kelly mentioned that again in an indirect way yesterday. They've got to get off that train of having to restock the secondary every year. So in terms of they got players with talent coming in, like Chestnut and players like that, coming in to play with returning players like Major Burns, who got some all SEC attention. But you got to get off that train, and they hope to do that by next year. So that's got to come together in terms of a chemistry standpoint. But that front seven, really helps a lot. And if you can keep those guys healthy, if Mason Smith can give you the kind of year he was expected to have last year, that bodes very well for the LSU defense. Because as Coach Kelly described, if you single team him, you're giving him a chance to make plays. If you double team him with 2 offensive linemen, you're giving guys on the outside a chance to make plays that really impact. He can really impact their defense and make it much more effective.
Scott Rabalais from The Advocate joining us right now. Scott, I want to kind of shift focus to the upcoming fall camp that's coming up in about a week or so. You just mentioned all the transfers that are coming in, and we got a lot of newcomers on offense as well. Is there any first-year guy you're keeping an eye on heading into fall camp?
I think the running back situation is the most intriguing one. Obviously, they've got 8 running backs now. They went into the spring, they only had a couple of guys, right, who could play, and now you've got some. You got freshmen coming in. You got Logan Diggs transferring in from Notre Dame. Will he assert himself? Is it going to be Josh Williams? Your money seems to be on Josh Williams because they brought him to media days, and they're not going to bring someone who they're not expecting to be a major contributor to media days. It was him and Wingo and Daniels. But then, Trey Bradford's coming back. John Emery, they expect to have, by the start of camp after all his academic issues. But that's going to be a very interesting situation to see who can be the guy to emerge if it's someone besides Josh. John Emery, they're hoping for great things, and you can. I don't want to say he's a newcomer, but could he be a consistent, more every down kind of player? We certainly saw flashes. The touchdown run he had against Auburn, tremendous play. The touchdown catch he had against Alabama, tremendous play. But can he give you a more consistent performance? Is the question. So I'm eager to see a guy like Diggs, who could have gone a lot of places, but figured he had a chance to come in to LSU and be a major contributor. He had to be sold on that, I would imagine, in the transfer process. How big a player can he be for LSU? And is this running back position collectively going to become a strength as compared to something that you go, well, you look at the receiver core compared to that with Neighbors and Thomas and Mason Taylor, throw him in there as well, and it's not as strong. Can they be something that becomes maybe more on par with the receiving core that you have a lot of respect for going into the season? I think that's, to me, the most fascinating area.
Look, speaking of that receiving core, I want to kind of look there right now. I mean, you got your big 3 back, if you will, in Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and Kyron Lacey, but you bring in a lot of talent. You got Shelton Sampson from right here in Baton Rouge. You bring in a Jaylen Brown, and then you get Aaron Anderson, the transfer from Alabama. If you could pick one of the kind of the newer guys on the team at that receiver position to really break out, who are you keeping an eye on?
Well, Aaron Anderson's a fascinating one, right? I mean, he was a player LSU very much wanted when he signed with Alabama, and he went away, and obviously he didn't get to contribute as much as he wanted there. Now he's coming back. Again, a player that you figure he's not leaving that situation just to be another guy down the list, that he figures he's going to break into that starting lineup. And I think we all still have to get used to the idea, to me anyway, that LSU, traditionally now is starting 3 wide receivers, right? It's not that old situation. There's a running back, there's a fullback. Now there's 3 wideouts. So you got 3 starting spots there. And can he be one of those guys? So I think that's a huge thing. Coach Kelly yesterday, if I may talk about a returning player, he specifically mentioned Brian Thomas as being someone who it's his time to shine. I think you could look at Brian Thomas and say, you could make the argument that he's the most talented receiver they have. Obviously, Malik Neighbors is their number 1 wide receiver. He's preseason All SEC. You see in the magazines and the media days, he's way up there on a lot of people's lists. But Brian Thomas is a player that needs to break out this year, and I think Coach Kelly was kind of saying he's expecting it and throwing down a bit of a challenge to him. But Anderson obviously is another one of those players that's very key that can give you that. You got. So just 3 guys that you really can depend on. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5, and he's one of those guys in that mix.
Look, want to kind of shift to the defensive side of the ball right now. We talked about how stout they're going to be on that front 7. One of the concerns I do have, though, is that jack linebacker spot. You lose B.J. Ojolari. Desmond Little, who didn't get a ton of time, but he was a nice depth piece. He transfers out. You brought in a couple nice transfer pieces, but who do you kind of think, for lack of a better word, has the edge at that spot?
Linebacker. I mean, obviously, Harold Perkins is such a dominating talent, but and you got. I'm gonna mess up his name. I think Ovi Egbo.
Ovi Egbofu, yeah.
Gofu. Thank you very much. I just have to type it right. I don't have to usually say it right. You get a guy like him coming in. You got Spate. You got these guys coming in to be around Perkins because he can't do it alone, obviously, and he's someone that the other teams are going to be watching for. So the LSU is still in that position where guys have to come in from the transfer portal or the freshman class and contribute right away for them to be the team that they can be. And it's like, it can happen, but is it going to happen? And those are some of the big names that you have to watch for there.
Another position I'm looking at right now is the cornerback spot. You mentioned safety earlier, and you certainly are stout there. You got Greg Brooks and Major Burns both coming back, but you got a lot of talent at corner, but you lose both of your starters from last year in Mekhi Garner and Jarek Bernard Converse. Obviously, Deuce Chestnut, by far the most experienced out of the guys you brought in, but who are you kind of looking at to kind of fill those roles?
Ty Alexander obviously is another name. Denver Harris, the guy who left and went to A&M, has come back to LSU. Again, you're going to have to count. Not only they have ability. Yeah, that's not the case. In the secondary, so much of chemistry is the question. Can you count on the guy next to you when the receiver is running down the field and you're handing off to the next guy, the safety covering over the top or handing off to the cornerback's got him one-on-one. Can you count on him to do that job? And I think that's the big question. They've got to learn each other, and it's a short amount of time to do that. But I think they can. I think I'm confident in their ability that they have guys who can play and they can teach them how to play together. But there might be a growing pain there or two early in the season, especially when you're going against a team like Florida State and a quarterback as talented as they have, in the season opener. There could be a growing pain or two, but I think as the course of the season goes on, I think they'll be fine.
All right, Scott, before I get you out of here, if I had to get you to pick one area that you think is going to be the key to LSU's success this year, where is that?
I think the offensive line is very experienced. Obviously, you started 2 freshman tackles last year, and now they've grown up through a season of awards in the SEC. You got 4 or 5 returning starters, depending on how you look at it, on the offensive line. So that's great, but you got to stay healthy there, and you've got to avoid the injuries, and that's just luck to a large extent. A lot of backups are unproven, and I think you saw last year on the defensive line, you could lose a Mason Smith for basically the entire season, and a guy like Wingo steps up. But do you have that on the offensive line? They had to juggle things around a lot last year. We saw a lot of combinations with the line. They obviously hope to avoid that this year, and that's going to be key. Like Jaden Daniels, obviously another year's experience playing behind that line, playing with these receivers and some of these running backs. He's got more confidence, and they have more confidence in him. But boy, if you can give Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier when he plays, but Jaden Daniels that time to throw, the time to go through his progressions, this could be a very, very dangerous offense. And but the offensive line is key. It's not the sexiest part of the team. It's not the part of the team people look at most of all, but I think it's one of the biggest parts of their success this year. And I'll also say something about the kicking position. It's totally neither kicker impressed in the spring game, and I think that's a position that's still totally up for grabs, and that's something that you don't think about until the game's on the line, and you got to trot Cole Tracy or somebody like that out there to kick that game-winning field goal, and it's going to happen in some game, and LSU needs to get that position straight as well.
Scott Rabalais from The Advocate. Scott, I've kept you long enough, man. Thank you so much for hopping on with me.
Oh, thanks for having me. Take care.
Absolutely. That was Scott Rabalais from The Advocate. Got to take a quick time out. We're a little pressed on time. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 1 after this here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So proud to welcome on a new partner here to the Hunt Palmer Show. It's Ochsner Health and MD Anderson Cancer Center. They partnered to create the Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center in southeastern Louisiana. We know that everyone is affected by cancer one way or another. You know someone, a loved one, a friend who has dealt with cancer. The collaboration between these two is going to give patients in our region access to cancer treatments that are among the most advanced in the country. Patients in our state are going to receive care based on the exact same protocols and practice standards that are provided at MD Anderson. They've got customized treatment plans. They've got an experienced team that's going to treat both common and rare cancers with the quality outcomes that we're all looking for when we're battling cancer, providing expert care in 7 locations across New Orleans, St. Tammany, and in Baton Rouge. If you want to learn more, you can visit Ochsner.org/end-cancer. That's Ochsner.org/end-cancer. It's Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look.
Curb appeal.
Matt Moscona inviting to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. LSU pitcher Javen Coleman joins us, and Matty Hudak has an update from Saints camp. It's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome back into the Hunt Palmer Show. Taylor Sharp filling in for Hunt Palmer, and horrible time management by me. We're out of here in about a minute and a half, but I do want to tell you that you have a chance to see comedian Dave Chappelle live at the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans Friday, September 15th. Tickets are on sale at Ticketmaster.com, but 104.5 ESPN is giving you a chance to see Dave absolutely free. What you have to do is go to 1045ESPN.com to register for your chance to win a pair of tickets to this show. You got to do it by this weekend, and look, obviously that is a popular show. It is going to completely sell out, so get your tickets now. Again, register at 1045ESPN.com for your chance to win free tickets. Before we wrap up hour number one, want to give a little bit of a recap of the first hour. Kick things off talking about the 5 players that could really have a breakout year for LSU. We mentioned Kai Bates, the 4-star cornerback out of the state of Florida, committing to Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers. Gave you my predictions for the college football playoff, and then Scott Rabalais of The Advocate joined us to talk a little LSU football. Spring practice coming up, fall practice in about a week and a half, so that is right around the corner as well. We got Scott's thoughts on what he was looking for in fall camp. That's going to do it for hour number one. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. We'll kick it off with the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk a little Saints, big name free agent defensive end that the Saints are apparently interested in. We'll talk a little free agent running backs, and then John Hendricks from Boot Crew Media joining me to give a training camp update. That's all coming up right here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Bayou Ford has $8,000 off MSRP, plus 1.9% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks, along with Bayou Ford's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The importance of doing this Fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the Fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a Fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Center. I'm Doug Brown. Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh says as much as he'd like to, he can't talk about an ongoing NCAA investigation. ESPN's Pete Thamel reports Harbaugh could face a 4-game suspension for not cooperating. Broncos coach Sean Payton tells USA Today Sports that Denver's coach last year, Nathaniel Hackett, did one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the league. Hackett is now the offensive coordinator for the Jets, where he works for head coach Robert Saleh.
I kind of live by saying, if you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping. So hate away. Obviously, we're doing something right if you got to talk about us when we don't play you till week 4. You know, the guys in our locker room, they've earned everything that's coming to them. and really excited about what's going on. I think Hackett's doing a phenomenal job here.
Robert Saleh, two-way sensation Shohei Ohtani will stay with the Angels for the rest of the season. The team's still hoping to make the playoffs. Ohtani will be a free agent after the season is over if the Angels don't re-sign him. Ohtani has thrown 7 scoreless innings, allowing just 1 hit in the first of a doubleheader. Angels lead at 6-0 in the 8th.
If you need solid hires fast, you need Indeed. The all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates from the same place. Want to find your next great hire? Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Hunt Palmer Show here on this Thursday afternoon. Taylor Sharp here with you, filling in for Mr. Hunt Palmer. With you for the rest of the day today as well as tomorrow. But Hunt, he will be back on Monday. A lot of college football talk in hour number 1. Led off the show by potential breakout players for the LSU Tigers in 2023. Then we talked a little college football playoff, who's maybe my favorites to make it and which conferences may be left out altogether. Then Scott Rabalais from The Advocate hopped on with me to preview LSU fall camp. Want to shift focus from college to the pro ranks right now. Talk a little New Orleans Saints. Look, all week long we've been talking about training camp, and we're obviously looking at what are the bright spots for the Saints, where are some spots that they maybe need to improve a little bit. One of those spots they need improvement, I think none bigger than defensive end. Obviously you have Cam Jordan on one side, but who's going to take the reins at that spot opposite of Cam Jordan? Is it a Carl Granderson, a guy who kind of burst onto the scene, had 8 sacks last year? Word around training camp today was that Peyton Turner was running with the ones today after Granderson took the 1 reps yesterday. So a little bit up in the air. They really could use another piece in that defensive end room. And Canal Street Chronicles actually put out an article mentioning that, you know, they are a little light on the defensive end spot. Right now they got Carl Granderson, Cam Jordan, Tano Passanio, Peyton Turner, and then rookie Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame, who they selected in the 2nd round. So you have a really good veteran player. Then you got a lot of young guys with not a ton of experience. I mean, Peyton Turner, obviously that 1st-round pick, he hasn't really panned out, at least not from the position that you drafted him in. And this article mentions that free agent defensive end Jadeveon Clowney could actually be a pretty decent move. And at first I kind of pushed pause on it. I was like, look, Clowney, big name, but do you really want him on your roster? The more I looked into his numbers, the more I'd actually be okay with a signing like this. Look, Clowney's been in the league for 9 years, 320 tackles, 43 sacks. He last played in Cleveland for the past 2 years under Joe Woods, who is the Saints' new defensive coordinator. So there's some familiarity there. Look, he's been solid his whole career, never really lived up to that number 1 overall pick status that he was when he came out of college. I was a little surprised to learn that he's actually never had a double-digit sack season. You're like, well, Taylor, you know, you're going to bring in a big name, a big personality. Is he going to perform and be an all-pro? You don't really need him to be. Again, he was with Cleveland the last 2 years. You just need a little bit of stability. I'm not even saying that he's going to be a starter for you, a depth piece nonetheless. Last 2 seasons in Cleveland, he had 11 sacks total. Did deal with some injuries, had a down year in 2022 as he only got to the quarterback twice last season with a total of 2 sacks. But look, he's obviously supremely talented. We saw what he was in college. Folks here around Baton Rouge, we know all about him as he played at South Carolina, came into Tiger Stadium one time, made a lot of plays in that game. The Tigers were able to actually come out with a win. Only 30 years old, though, so not a lot of tread on those tires. And again, you certainly need veteran help at that defensive end spot. He's got that connection to Joe Woods from his time in Cleveland. And right now, your only 2 reliable ends on your roster is Cam Jordan and Carl Granderson. Can Granderson replicate what he did last year? I don't know. I'd like to say yeah. If I had to put money on it right now, I'd say probably not. Is Peyton Turner going to break through? Again, I'd like to say yeah, but I mean, what have we seen from him for us to have a lot of confidence in him as Saints fans? Now, is this strictly a depth piece? I don't know. It all is going to depend on Peyton Turner. Can he take that next step? You know, he had a lot of injuries as a rookie. Last year, kind of his first full season with the Saints, as he missed a lot of the 2021 season, but was very inconsistent last year. But can he make that jump? We've seen a lot of young players make a big jump from year 1 to year 2 and then year 2 to year 3 very early in their career. So Jadeveon Clowney, certainly not a bad option. But look, if it's not Jadeveon Clowney, who could you go after? So I wanted to pull up a list of some of the top free agent defensive ends out there on the market right now. Now, you obviously have Robert Quinn. If you're an NFL football fan, you know Robert Quinn. Big-time player, been in a lot of big-time games. Problem is, Quinn is 33 years old. He's probably going to demand a little bit more money than Jadeveon Clowney as well. The good thing about Clowney is, at this point in his career, you could probably get him for very near the league minimum. It would be a little bit over that, but you're not having to break the bank. Keep in mind, it is late in the process. You've already started training camp. Preseason's in a few weeks. Then your season is off and rolling. You don't need to spend a bunch of money on a guy that has to come in, have that learning curve. Another guy, Yannick Ngakoue, 28 years old, coming out of Indianapolis. He's also spent some time in Jacksonville. He's obviously the most talented free agent defensive end on the market. But he's going to command a lot of money in free agency. Again, this late in the process, does New Orleans really want to get into a bidding war with another team? I don't think so. You got Matthew Ioannidis from Carolina, solid player. Akeem Hicks, maybe. He's 33. Justin Houston, 34 years old. So, you know, I kind of pushed pause on it when I first saw the Jadeveon Clowney name brought up. But the more I look at it, I don't hate it. Because, again, he's not going to cost you a ton of money. And he hasn't been a superstar in the league, but he's always been a solid player. And outside of 2022, he's been pretty healthy for the most part. Now, it's the NFL. You're going to get banged up. You're going to have injuries here and there, but it's never been anything of any significance. So he's relatively healthy. He's only 30 years old. He's familiar with Joe Woods, and he's not going to cost a ton of money. The inside of your defense looks pretty good right now. I mean, you have Brian Bresee. You got Cam Jordan on the other defensive end. That's going to be your veteran presence. He's going to be the anchor of that defensive line. Can you bring in a solid veteran presence on the other side? Not saying Clowney needs to start. If nothing else, he can push Peyton Turner. Bring him in and say, hey, we're bringing this guy in for competition. We just saw the Saints on Monday sign Trey Turner and Jimmy Graham. Are they going to be starters? I don't know. I don't think Jimmy Graham's going to be a starter, but he's in there for competition. Trey Turner's going to push these other guys to kind of step up their game a little bit, be a little bit better. So, you know, looking at it on the surface, it may not sound like a great idea because Clowney's not only a big name, he's kind of a big personality. Would he be okay that, you know, if he made that team and wasn't really named a starter, would he be okay at being a rotational piece? I don't know what the market looks like right now for Jadeveon Clowney. Don't know if any teams have reached out to him, but I think the Saints could do a lot worse. I don't think that is a terrible idea. All right, look, we're going to wrap up that Saints segment. We're going to take a quick timeout. We're going to come back with free agent running backs, but look, before I do take that break, I want to remind you to subscribe to Hunt on LSU and Hunt on Saints. All the segments you see here, LSU football and Saints related, we post all of them. They are archived. Look, guys, I'll be quite frank with you. We're trying to get Saints, the Hunt on Saints channel monetized. It has to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's how we make money. Go subscribe. He's about 500 subscribers away. You know, Hunt's not here to defend himself, but we talked about it in our producer meeting on Tuesday. We're going to do something to incentivize you guys. Hunt's going to have to do something. We're not sure what it is yet. We may actually make him stand out in front of Guaranteed Media and hold a sign that says, I love the Texas A&M Aggies. Maybe we may even put it to a fan vote. We'll see what happens. But again, go subscribe to Hunt on LSU and Hunt on Saints to catch all of these segments that are archived. All right, going to take a quick timeout. On the other side of this break, we're going to talk some free agent running backs. A big name may find a home. We'll see what happens there. And the market's kind of dried up for these guys. Where are these guys going to fall before the season starts? We'll talk about that on the other side of this break here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. LSU pitcher Javen Coleman joins us, and Maddie Hudak has an update from Saints Camp. It's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome back into the Hunt Palmer Show here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Want to kind of shift gears. We're going to stick with the NFL, but we're going to broaden it from the Saints to the NFL as a whole. Want to look at free agent running backs. It's kind of been the talk of the NFL for the past week or so. The value of running backs really going down. You know, we saw Monday or Tuesday, Saquon Barkley, He signed a 1-year, $11 million deal. Now he got a $2 million signing bonus. But, you know, these running backs are really undervalued right now. Well, I mean, look, if you don't think they're undervalued, maybe they're not. But I personally view it as these guys are not getting paid what they should. And it's not just their contracts. Look at the guys that are free agents right now. And I mean, there's a lot of free agent running backs out there, but there's some big names out there that still have some good football left in them. I mean, the biggest name, obviously, Dalvin Cook. He wanted a big contract. Vikings didn't want to give it to him. They released him. He's a free agent. He still has not found a new team. However, it was reported this morning Dalvin Cook will be on his way to New York. He's meeting with the New York Jets this weekend. What could that look like? Could he get a deal there? He very well might. Aaron Rodgers, he restructured his deal. He left a lot of money on the table. Could they use that extra cash to sign a player like a Dalvin Cook? Ezekiel Elliott's a free agent. Now everybody out there is going to say, well, Taylor, you're only saying that because you're a Cowboys fan. Ezekiel Elliott's washed. You know, I kind of thought he was washed too until I look at the numbers. If you go season by season, he's been pretty steady overall. Now, the last 2 years, he's had to split time with Tony Pollard, but a 1,000-yard rusher just 2 seasons ago. And last year, he didn't have the yards, but had a lot of touchdowns, was a really good short yardage back. And I know what you're saying. Yeah, but both of the guys you mentioned have a lot of tread on the tire. Okay, well, how about this guy? How about a Kareem Hunt? He's 27 years old. He's really never been the featured back on a team, but he's always had solid production. So a guy you know can play. He has good hands out of the backfield, so you can use him in the running game and as an extension of the passing game. Only 27 and doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his body. Why is a guy like that not on a roster? Leonard Fournette, LSU alum. You know, he did some good things with the Jaguars. Then he left. He went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Was instrumental in that Super Bowl run. Now, the past couple of years, he has fallen off a little bit. He's dealt with a little bit of injuries, but still a really talented guy that does not have a home. And look, these are just 4 of the biggest names. I mean, there's a lot of other guys out there. J.D. McKissick at 29 years old. Marlon Mack's out there. Now, you know, he's dealt with a little bit of injuries, but Kenyon Drake's there. Darrell Williams, another LSU alum. Benny Snell. A couple years ago when James Conner went down with an injury in Pittsburgh, people thought that Benny Snell was going to be the next bell cow back out there for the Steelers. That wound up not happening. He's bounced around a little bit. He's only 25 years old. I mean, it's just the running back market is so dried up right now. Why would you offer these guys top dollar if there's not a big market for them? And there's plenty of running backs out there. But let's look at some of the running back needy teams. You obviously have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For my money, I would say they have the worst running back situation in the entire NFL. Not a ton of depth there, and their number 1 on their roster right now is Rachaad White. Rachaad White is a fine player. Rachaad White's not an every down NFL back. At least he hasn't proven to be. He's a little bit undersized. How good is he out of the backfield? We're going to find out. They're already struggling at the quarterback spot. You got a Kyle Trask and a Baker Mayfield competing to be your starting quarterback. Both those guys are fine, but are they legitimate starting quarterbacks in the NFL? Baker's done some good things. He's been wildly inconsistent, but Kyle Trask is a relative unknown. They're a team that needs to bring in a running back. Maybe focus on that running game. Take some of the pressure off of a Trask and a Baker Mayfield. I mean, they're replacing Tom freaking Brady. I mean, let's not act like there's not going to be a lot of pressure on him. I know that nobody expects him to do much, but anytime you're replacing Tom Brady, that's some very large shoes to fill. But they're not the only team. You have the LA Chargers. Now, of course, they have Austin Eckler, but he's one of these guys that is also not happy with his contract. How much longer is he going to be in LA? Who's going to be his backup? You've kind of bounced around. I mean, you thought you had Roundtree as his backup. You know, John Kelly's been there, but, you know, how good is he? The Raiders. What are the Raiders going to do? Josh Jacobs still has not reported to training camp for the Raiders. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. They're trying to rework a deal for him. He's reportedly not happy with the money that he's been offered. Is Jacobs going to sit out this year? While I don't think that's going to happen, you got to bring in a guy as an insurance policy in case that does happen. And even if he decides to play, who's his backup? We've seen Kenyon Drake there. We've seen Peyton Barber there. But what do you have right now? Neither of those guys are on the team any longer. I mean, you got some decent young talent, but I mean, Josh Jacobs is kind of all you have offensively. Now you got Devontae Adams, but can Jimmy Garoppolo really get him the ball down the field? We don't know yet. If you're going to use Jacobs like you did last year, That's a lot of touches for that guy. If he goes down, you're going to need a solid guy behind him. How about my Dallas Cowboys? Now, we have Tony Pollard, but he hasn't gotten a long-term deal either. Word is they're working on something, but is that going to happen before the season starts? How long is that going to linger? Could he be possible to sit out? Now, he showed up for training camp, but that's a little bit different than the start of the season. And even if they do get a deal done, I'm a Tony Pollard fan, but he hasn't really proven to me that he can be an every down back in the NFL. I mean, remember, I just talked about Ezekiel Elliott earlier. While he's dealt with some injuries, he has a lot of tread on the tire. He may not be as explosive as he once was. He was still a really solid short yardage back for that team last year. He had a lot of touchdowns in the red zone and in the goal line area. You haven't replaced that yet. You lost Ezekiel Elliott. You don't have that guy back. Right now, your number 2 running back in Dallas is Malik Davis. He's fine, but he's relatively unproven. You drafted Deuce Vaughn out of Kansas State. I love Deuce Vaughn. I love his story. I always like to see the little guy succeed, but he's not a between-the-tackles runner. I mean, he's going to be kind of that catch the ball out of the backfield Darren Sproles type role, which is fine, but Tony Pollard can do that. Tony Pollard's explosive. He can make you miss on the outside. He can catch balls out of the backfield. His issue is between the tackles running. They haven't replaced that yet. There's a lot of names out there. And obviously, you're not going to bring back an Ezekiel Elliott, but, I mean, Leonard Fournette, he doesn't have to start for you, but you can bring him in to spell Pollard every now and then. How about a Darrell Williams? He's a guy that you could get for relatively cheap. Only 28 years old, hasn't had quite the injuries Fournette had. May not command as quite enough money. How about the Cardinals? I mean, James Conner's a good running back, but he's not exactly a model of consistency in the health department either. Then you have the Vikings. Are they content with riding with Alexander Madison? Madison's fine. A lot of young guys behind him. You got to bring in a guy for him. We haven't seen him be an every down back yet. Now, he's been pretty good filling in for a Dalvin Cook when he went down with injuries, but we haven't seen it for a whole season. This all goes back to that contract issue. These running backs are not going to sign for low dollar, but the problem is there's so many free agent running backs. I mean, just look at all the big names who have seen virtually no interest. They're not going to sign for a low deal, but there's not teams out there that are beating down their door trying to throw the Brinks truck at them and offer them a contract. I don't really know what you're going to do. A lot of names out there, a lot of spots that need to be filled. None of them can seem to come to an agreement on the money. The NFL's already turned into a very, very pass-happy league. I mean, what's the future of the running back position? Is it a dying breed? I hope not. I like the position. I think there's still a place in the game for it. I think the running back has kind of evolved over time. It's not just a big bruiser back there that's going to carry the ball 30, 40 times a game. They're an extension of the passing game now. Look at a guy like a Christian McCaffrey. He could play slot receiver on almost any team in the NFL and be perfectly fine. Saquon Barkley can catch the ball. Josh Jacobs can catch the ball. They still haven't paid him. What is the future of the running back position in the NFL? I mean, let's look at what I think are the top 5 backs in the NFL. Number 1, I'm going Christian McCaffrey for all the reasons I just mentioned. He's fast. He's super athletic. He's the emergency quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. We saw the injuries they had in the playoff game. If they would have had one more injury, you would have seen McCaffrey go in there and try to throw some passes. He's underrated between the tackles. I think he's the best receiving back in the league out of the backfield. But look how diverse this position is, because at number 2, I'm going Nick Chubb. He's a guy that's not known for his receiving ability. He is more of that old school back, but he's probably the best pure runner in the NFL. Then you have a Josh Jacobs, a little bit of a hybrid guy. But is he going to play this year? We don't know. Then Saquon Barkley, I have at number 4. I'd have him higher, but he's injured all the time. He's similar to a McCaffrey, to a Josh Jacobs. He's big enough to run in between the tackles, but he's also an extension of the passing game. Really, the only one that's not is Derrick Henry, and even last year, we saw him get a little bit more involved in the screen game. I got him at number 5. And again, I mean, that's not a perfect system. This is just my opinion on who the top 5 running backs are, but I mean, just look at how diverse that list is. Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Derrick Henry. And look, Dalvin Cook could very well be on this list if he was on a team right now. The point is, running backs can do a lot of different things in the NFL. Still not getting paid for it. Why is that? Will that problem be solved? I don't know. I'm starting to think it won't. But what is the solution? What do you do with running back moving forward? This might be one of those things where it's like, hey, we're going to draft a running back. We're not going to reach for him either. But keep in mind, you had Bijan Robinson and Jamar Gibbs go, both of them in the first round, in the top 20 picks. Everybody criticized those picks. I think they're fine picks, but I mean, the way NFL front offices are going, maybe they're not. I mean, this is a thing in the future where we can grab a guy in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, sign him to a 3-year deal. If he does good, we'll pick up his 4th, maybe even 5th-year option. We'll send him on his way. In the upcoming draft, we'll select another guy in the 3rd or 4th round. We'll do the same thing. You're going to see running backs bounce around a lot. I mean, just look at all the guys that are going to be on new teams. Dalvin Cook, he ain't going back to the Vikings. Ezekiel Elliott, he ain't going back to the Cowboys. I doubt Kareem Hunt goes back to Cleveland. Could Cleveland get a backup? They got Dearness Johnson out of town, too. He's in Jacksonville. Kareem Hunt's a free agent. Who do you have now? Who do you have now behind Nick Chubb? Fournette's not going back to the Buccaneers. You're going to see these guys bounce around more and more. I think it's going to be like a kicker situation. I mean, it seems like a kicker's either there on a team for 15 years or they change teams. I mean, just look at the Saquon Barkley contract, a 1-year deal. I kind of feel like that's going to be the new norm. I mean, sure, he's getting, with his signing bonus, $13 million, but it's a 1-year deal. I think in the future, we'll see a lot of 1-year deals with a 2nd-year team option. They'll say, you play this year. If you do good, we'll pick up that 2nd-year option. If you don't, you're a free agent. We'll offer somebody else a 1-year deal. Or we'll go find somebody cheap in the draft. There's a future for the running back in the game, but I think it looks drastically different from what we are used to seeing. All right, going to take a quick timeout. We're going to shift back to the New Orleans Saints. John Hendricks of Boot Crew Media going to join me next. He was at Saints practice. He's going to tell me what he's liked from training camp, what stood out so far. That's coming up right after this break. Here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
This summer, retirement is a state of mind. Whether it's a mid-morning activity or an early bird special, grab a Coors Light and chill like you're retired.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get him now before they go back on back order. Front to back boat service.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. LSU pitcher Javen Coleman joins us, and Matty Hudak has an update from Saints camp. It's AFR 36, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome back to the Hunt Palmer Show here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Want to continue our Saints talk for the day. Joining me right now, John Hendricks from Sports Illustrated, does a little work with Boot Crew Media as well, a busy guy. John, how are you today?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Look, second day of training camp just wrapped up a few hours ago. I know you've been busy covering it. What's kind of your overall thoughts in training camp? I mean, what's kind of the vibes out there?
Yeah, I think it's good vibes. I think it's positive vibes. I feel like, covering this team for so long, that I feel like this is going to be a pretty good team this year. I feel like the mood has changed. The locker room felt different in OTAs and minicamp. You just get a sense of how excited people are to have Derek Carr in the building and just what he's been able to do and how reinvigorated he is. And Dennis Allen feels like he's got a lot more comfortability under him. There's a lot more of his guys underneath him and such. But look, I feel like practice flow has been pretty good. I feel like DA has done a good job here. And, look, I can sit here and tell you it's been all good, but fans, after 2 losing seasons, they just want to see it out on the field now.
What's kind of stood out to you? I mean, are there any surprises so far through the first 2 days? I know we're still pretty early.
Yeah, I mean, as far as surprises go, I think the fact that, the first day they had 100% attendance, that's a big step forward. And then obviously today, Trevor Penning dealing with a foot injury. It's not in the same one that he had his spring surgery, so that's good news. And DA considers him day to day. But just seeing some of these guys playing the way they are, Andrew Dow forcing a couple fumbles today, seeing Peyton Turner making some positive impact plays in the first 2 days. Seeing Michael Thomas doing some things, and Jimmy Graham. I think that's probably been the surprise for me. I thought if you would have asked me the other day if he was going to sign with the team more or less, to actually play, I just never would have guessed that. And so, look, I think most everybody looks in pretty good shape so far. And, I think surprise-wise, Peyton Turner's one of them, Andrew Dow's another one, and just the overall mood of this team just being, as positive as it has been.
Well, let's stick with Jimmy Graham. He's kind of been the big headline leading up to training camp. How is he looking out there? I saw some clips. He looked really good. I mean, he looks a little bit slimmed down, but I mean, overall for a guy who's 36, he seems like he's still in pretty good shape. He took the year off last year, but I mean, he seems like he's kind of exceeding everybody's expectations right now.
Yeah, look, Dennis Allen was super impressed at how good he looked in his workout the other day. And look, he said that he looked in top shape. He does look like he's in top shape. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that definitely means he's going to make the final roster, all this other stuff, but he looks like he's a guy that is here and is serious about coming back and playing. And, look, I think that goes a long way. And, he made a couple of good catches today and such, and just missed a seam route that would have really set everybody on fire, for sure. But overall, I think he looks pretty good. He's not going to be the guy that they drafted way back in the day, but, he does look comfortable out there, getting acclimated with things, just kind of like Jimmy, used to do, but just age, older, just kind of like your comic book nerd, old man Wolverine, I guess is what I would call him.
How's the tight end room looked as a whole? Because it was a little bit of a confusing signing for me. I mean, Jimmy Graham, obviously a great talent, but you like what you saw from Jawan Johnson last year. You just brought in a Morrow. What's the Taysom Hill role kind of going to be? How many reps is he going to get at tight end? I mean, what's that room as a whole kind of looking like right now?
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen because I think they have the most interesting tight end room in the league, just because Jawan Johnson's the guy that builds off of last year, and he's going to develop some real nice chemistry. He has developed chemistry with Derek Carr. You had Foster Moreau in there. I think he looked pretty good, made a really good catch today. And then you kind of have Taysom Hill, which is, they've said that they have a better idea and understanding of how to use him. And so whether that's with the tight ends, whether that's quarterback, whether it's powers, runs, kind of remains to be seen. And obviously I want to see it before, we totally believe it. But, last year we saw plenty of times where they didn't deploy him in the right way, at the right time. And then when they did and get him going, you're sitting there wondering, why didn't they do this sooner? And so when I did my early final roster predictions, I gave an extra slot to the tight end group and gave it to Lucas Kroll, assuming that Johnson, Hill, and Moreau were going to be the top three. I don't know. It's pushing a guy like Lucas Kroll with Jimmy Graham in the mix, but again, it's going to come down to an interesting numbers game, and if Graham can blow him away, I think he has a spot in this team. But with Taysom last year, 20-plus snaps, they ended up going, I think, 6-2, and they were winless when he didn't get anything like that.
Look, obviously you got a lot of weapons on offense. We know about the receivers. You got 3 pretty solid running backs. The tight end position's looking good. What have you seen from Derek Carr, though? I mean, it's got to be a pretty different vibe now that you have a bona fide starter out there under center, right?
Yeah, there's a breath of fresh air around the team, the locker room, and just the fact that of what he's capable of doing. And look, he's a guy who said it, but he's not coming here to take over. He's just coming in here to it's not a one person like team. It's a group of players trying to lead the charge here and get the team back to the team. Obviously, when it's Super Bowl, the game, but look, Carr is developed in the street. He's going to be responsible for a lot of things that the quarterbacks who should be left we're not. And we're always going to be justice the line. Their Carr's going to get to those justice the line. He's going to have a lot more freedom with the play call and taking out plays and doing things. I mean, the trust level between him and Carr Michael is good. And, so now it's just making sure they put it all together and with the chemistry and the timing down. We had a couple of those things, and I'm sure he's going to get back. But, when it's something that just put the ball in a different spot, but better than the receivers, they're all work to the best.
Hey, John, I hate to cut you off, but you're breaking up pretty bad. We're gonna hang up. We're gonna call you right back. Try to fix this signal, okay? Look, he seems pretty excited about the tight end spot. We're gonna call him back. That was just, that was pretty bad there. I apologize for that one. It's not a perfect system. Sometimes your phones mess up a little bit, but he's not the only one I've heard that is really high on Jimmy Graham. I mean, we saw some highlights coming out of camp today. Looked really, really good. I mean, he slimmed down a little bit. He always had that thicker body when he was here back in the day during his first stint with New Orleans. Slimmed down, looked really quick in and out of his breaks on those routes. I didn't see him drop a pass, but I'm really excited about that. All right, looks like we got John on right now. We're going to go back to him. Rejoined right now, John Hendricks, Sports Illustrated out there at Saints Camp. John, let me get you all over again. What has the vibe kind of been like with Derek Carr under center?
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't know phones are a heck of a thing. Didn't know all that stuff. But, what I was saying is that, the vibe and everything is a lot different with Derek Carr in the building. He's playing with a lot of confidence. I think there were some throws today that obviously he wanted to have back, but it wasn't because of turnovers or anything like that. Just timing that he's working on with his receivers, making sure he has all the nuances of the game. And look, it's going to be a little bit different of how things ran, reminiscent to Drew Brees, but not Drew Brees, in the sense that he's going to make a lot of the checks at the line of scrimmage, something that Eric McCoy's done the past couple of years. He's going to be able to check out of the plays a good bit and have some freedom to play call different things and ad-lib, if you will. And, look, he has a great relationship so far with Pete Carmichael, and they see eye to eye on things, and I think it's only going to help flourish more as we go along with things.
Look, as far as the position battles, I mean, we've talked about ad nauseum everywhere in Louisiana sports media about, what's the offensive line rotation going to look like? Who's going to win that battle in the outside corner opposite Marshall and Lattimore? Is it going to be Paulson and Debo? Is it going to be Alante Taylor? Which position battles are you kind of watching right now?
Yeah, look, I think the specialist battles have been pretty interesting. I think Blake Grupe, I don't know if he'll beat out Will Lutz, and I don't know if Lou Headley's going to beat out Blake Wilson, but I think they're certainly going to make a run for it. And, I'm not so sure that Grupe won't be on a roster in week 1 for another team if he doesn't win the job. You mentioned outside corner. The interior offensive line is a big battle with the shuffling that they're going to have to do with, the uncertainties of Andres Pete going a full season, and same thing with maybe, Cesar Ruiz depends. And so, look, I like that. I like the wide receiver battle. I think that past Michael Thomas, Shaheed, and Olave, that everything's up for grabs. And so I'm really interested and anxious to see where things develop there. I think the pass rush position opposite of Cam Jordan is also another spot to pay attention to, and what linebacker steps up to the table who's able to put into production that was reminiscent of Caden Ellis last year.
Yeah, that's the thing. I want to kind of dive into linebacker. I mean, obviously, your two starters are as solid as any in the league, and in DeMario Davis and P. Werner. You got Zach Bond behind them, but after that, it's a relative unknown. I mean, you got Anthony Orji that you drafted. You got DeMarco Jackson. How have those younger guys behind Warner and Davis really looked so far?
Yeah, I think, as of right now, it's defaulted to Zach Bond kind of picking up those reps right now. And, after that, Andrew Dowell's is a guy that's looked really good the first couple of days, causing some turnovers and stuff. But, as far as the younger guys, DeMarco Jackson has had some impressive moments, but he also slipped on a route today. It led to a big completion for the offense and such. And so for the other guys, it's nothing really noticeable because they also have some other vets like Ryan Connolly out there and Ty Summers that kind of take some of that role. So these younger guys are going to get a chance to prove themselves, and that's why I'm interested when we move into preseason, when we do move into joint practices, that I think it's going to come more into focus. And so I know they have a great coach in Michael Hodges to coach them up. I just want to know who's that backup plan, because Warner, who's dealt with injuries in the past, he dealt with injuries in camp last year. Look, I'm not so sure that they're done adding at that position, but at the same time, they do feel good about that room and their abilities. And so we might see one of these unsung heroes come, out of the woodwork and be able to have some more playing time. But the Saints operate more in a nickel formation, so usually you just have those two linebackers out there at any time.
John, look, it's training camp. It's positivity season. Everyone's riding the hype train preseason. Is there anything kind of concerning to you so far that's maybe giving you caution that you want to kind of see improvements on?
Yeah, I think two things for me, just because of what they want to improve on last year, is that I want to see a little bit more from the interior rush. I want to see them get after the quarterback a little bit more and obviously stop the run. I think that's a spot that's a little bit underrated that has some talent there. I know you got Brian Brisset and obviously Colin Saunders, who left early today because of an illness, and Nathan Shepard's supposed to be a better pass rusher there, and you brought back Malcolm Roach. So, I want to see a little bit there and the offensive line, just the health and the plan there, because, obviously even Trevor Penning, even if it is a minor injury, it's another thing with his foot that's going on right now. They're holding him out more as a precaution. They have James Hurst. They have some other veterans they got, like Trey Turner and Max Garcia, that might help push the depth chart a little bit. But, that's my biggest thing is, can they survive, or how long can this starting vision of what you have in the trenches last? And what is the backup plan to that? And what are they going to do if something does happen? Because you don't invest so much money into guys like Derek Carr and then, don't protect them properly. You can't get the run lanes open. They've got to make sure that those plans and the backup to those plans are solid.
John, the Saints obviously have a talented roster. You look at it, at least starter-wise, offense and defense, all the pieces, for the most part, seem to be there, but there are a lot of people, Saints fans that do still have some concerns about Dennis Allen. What are your overall expectations for this team right now, at least heading into the 2023 season?
Yeah, it's got to be playoffs or bust. You don't go through two seasons without the playoffs and postseason, and you don't rebuild and refill this roster with a lot of good talent and have as good of a draft class as you do to I know some people are on Atlanta's train, which I don't really understand. Tampa's kind of in the wind right now. And in Carolina, I don't know what we'll get out of Carolina. They're a team that's hard to figure out, but I would err more on the side of that they're going to not be as great of a football team. But the Saints are going to have to earn their division. I think they have a great opportunity to be one of the top dogs in the conference and maybe be a sleeper team. I know a lot of people nationally are sleeping on them, giving them only 9 wins. I'm a lot more optimistic on them this year. Most optimistic I've felt in a couple of years. I think they can be a 10 and 11 win team easily. And they have a certain, strength of schedule that's favorable. But look, I think for Dennis Allen, he just needs to show people that he can win football games, shred that Raiders label that he had in the past, and just be able to go win football games. And that's all that we can ask there. And that's going to ultimately make fans feel better about their situation.
John Hendricks, Sports Illustrated, covering the Saints here for their training camp. John, I've kept you long enough, and I know you are a very busy man this week, so thanks for squeezing in a little bit of time with me.
No problem. Sorry about the phone issues. No idea. It's
all good, man.
Has a mind of its own.
All right, man. We appreciate your time. That was John Hendricks with Sports Illustrated. Got to take a quick timeout.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Matt Moscona inviting to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. LSU pitcher Javen Coleman joins us, and Matty Hudak has an update from Saints camp. It's AFR 36, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Close, you're listening to Taylor Sharp on the Hunt Palmer Show. One more segment to go. We're going to wrap it up like we do every day with Take It or Leave It. Mr. Beck, kick us off.
All right, first one here. The Bengals have extended Trey Hendrickson with a 4-year, $60 million contract. The Saints should have kept Trey Hendrickson. Take it or leave it.
Take it. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that would say leave it. We've talked a lot this week, not just on this show, but basically everywhere, of who's going to start opposite Cam Jordan. You had that guy. You didn't want to re-sign him for whatever reason. He's done really good in Cincinnati. 22 sacks over the last 2 seasons. The Saints could really use that type of production from the defensive end spot right now. I'm going to take that.
Sean Payton called the work Nathaniel Hackett and his staff did with the 2022 Broncos one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL, and said there were 20 dirty hands around quarterback Russell Wilson's career worst season that included just 16 touchdown passes and a league-high 55 sacks. Criticizing a previous coaching staff, take it or leave it.
I'm leaving this. I mean, he's right, but didn't we all already kind of know that about Nathaniel Hackett? I mean, he got hired and didn't even last a whole season. He was that bad. Russell Wilson regressed very drastically. I mean, Beck just said it right there in all the numbers he rattled off. 16 touchdown passes, 55 sacks, a lot of interceptions, a terrible record. Where does he get off on criticizing the previous coaching staff? Who cares? Move on. Right before that, he said, well, I don't want my players to dwell in the past. But let me go dwell in the past a little bit. Come on, man. I mean, I understand you're a lot of people's guy here in New Orleans, but move on. I'm leaving that.
Well, it's surprising, too, because usually Sean Payton plays stuff close to the vest. Like, he doesn't usually say anything like that. And also, you don't say that because what happens if you struggle this year too? And it's like, okay, well, you just talked about him like that and now you're struggling.
Yeah, that's a no-win situation. All right, let's get one final one in before we close out.
The University of Colorado will be joining the Big 12. The Pac-12 will no longer be a power conference. Take it or leave it.
Take it. I mean, I talked about this a couple days ago, that and the ACC. I mean, the ACC's got to make moves, but the Pac-12's losing people. They couldn't even lock down San Diego State for a long-term deal. They have no new TV deal right now. I made fun of the ACC for signing with the CW, but at least they have something. They still haven't announced that, and Colorado's fed up with it. You already lost USC and UCLA. I mean, who can you bring in to replace those guys? And say what you want, Colorado's been down the last couple years, but, I mean, Deion Sanders is certified box office. I mean, there's going to be eyeballs on that TV, good or bad, whether or not he's roaming the sidelines. He doesn't even have to win. People are going to tune in for that game. You just lost him. You lost USC and UCLA. I don't know how they recover from this. I'm leaving it. All right, look, that's going to wrap up the Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Had a lot of fun today. Hour one, we pretty much focused college football, talked a little LSU, some college football playoff predictions. Then Scott Rabalais of The Advocate joined me to preview fall camp. Hour number two, we stuck more towards the NFL. We talked free agent running backs, Saints possibly signing an extra defensive end. Then just last segment, John Hendricks from Sports Illustrated and Boot Crew Media hopped on with me to give us a little bit of update of what he's seen so far through Saints training camp. So again, that's going to wrap up the Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk more LSU, more Saints, and we'll have a little bit of fun, maybe some lighthearted segments to close out the week. That's going to do it here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Rev Business started small in 1935. We built our reputation by providing hometown service with Louisiana hustle. For nearly 90 years, we've expanded across our great state through the